Can you take us through like a scenario or like, okay, this is what I'm now focused on. These are some of the details of my, I call this a surgical type hunt.
Yeah.
What does that look like for
Yeah. So
Jared?
let's just take timber, for example. I mean, I might spend, like I said, a couple of days in the vehicle in a new area, driving around a lot of timber, not expecting to get a visual on a big buck, but just more or less eliminating the acreage and figuring out where the pressure is, and getting a general. Okay, I might drive by 30 pieces of public, and I'm trying to narrow it down to two or three pieces that I want to actually target for a few, a day or 2 days or whatever, or a portion of it. So if it's timber, I, just, okay, let's say I've selected, okay, I think this is worth my time. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try to first picture where a big buck might be. And then obviously look at the wind direction and approach it accordingly to that. As far as the pace that I'm going to still hunt, so I'm not going in to generally, very rarely am I going in with a set agenda of this is where I want to get to, and I'm going to set up shop there. I'm going in and I kind of want to work this ridge and I want to loop around like this. I don't really have a destination generally picked of point A to point B, and then I'm going to set up shop there. I'm going to go in and still hunt it because I'm still actually trying to decide whether this is worth my time. And so that's where the fine line of, well, I don't want to spend all day in this piece. Let's say it's 100-acre piece or 200. And I mean, it might be 1,000-acre piece, but I'm kind of more focused on this 100-acre portion of it, right? So I've already kind of in my head eliminated all this other acreage around, but this pocket within this 1,000 acres, I'm going to go in and I'm kind of going to hook like this. And I'll kind of pre-plan a loose, what you described, I think, in the first, a loose plan. Because as I get in there, I might kind of adjust my route, or maybe I get a visual on something and that changes everything. And I'm going to move at a pace generally of fast enough I can cover enough ground and get out of there and get back in the vehicle and move on to the next piece if it's not productive, but yet slow enough that I can probably get the visual before they ever see me, which, depending on the terrain and setting and wind conditions and things like that, that pace can only be determined at the time.
Right.
And with that setting and all those variables.
I think that's
obviously
a key.
A high wind day, you're getting away with noise.
Right.
You're getting away with movement. And so you can move at a faster pace than on a slow wind day, if that kind of makes sense. And I'll loop up through and do, kind of filter through. And, I'm taking in some of the, all the things we talked about already. Like, as I'm going through it, it's like, okay, do I get the feeling this has been getting pressured? And I'm taking in, the normal deer sign information too, of tracks and rubs and scrapes, but I'm keeping it loosely, like we talked about, like I'm noticing it, whether it's there or not, and whether it appears that there's pressure or not. And if by the end of my journey, I don't get a visual on a big buck, I'm going to evaluate everything else within that and decide whether I'm going to come back or if I'm completely abandoning, and I might not have a concrete answer on that. I may be like, there was a lot of good deer sign in there. It doesn't appear anybody's hitting it. For some reason, we didn't see a deer or a big buck or much. Something's maybe off. Maybe somebody was in there trompsing around the day before and I missed the sign. And maybe if we give it 2 days, they'll be popped back in,